Okay, so every few years, the world's leading climate scientists get together and release what is basically the most comprehensive health checkup for our planet. It's called the IPCC Synthesis Report. And look, this isn't just one group's opinion. This is the bottom line, the definitive summary of thousands and thousands of scientific papers. Today, we're going to break down what it says.
So what you're looking at here, each one of these stripes represents 1 year of global temperatures. You can see it starts with these cool blues way back on the left, and then it just moves through the yellows, the oranges, and into these deep, really alarming reds in recent years. This is our planet's official diagnosis. And in this explainer, we're going to unpack what it all means, why it's happening, and what the world's top scientists say we can actually do about it.
You can kind of think of this report like a visit to the doctor. It's structured in a really logical way. So first up is the diagnosis. And the two core facts are simple, they're direct, and they are backed by just an overwhelming mountain of evidence.
All right, here's the first key number you need to know. Over the last decade, our planet's average surface temperature was 1.15 degrees Celsius warmer than it was before we started the Industrial Revolution. Now, a little over 1 degree might not sound like a huge deal, right? But for the entire global climate system, that represents a massive, massive amount of trapped energy, and it has huge consequences.
So what's causing it? Well, the IPCC does not mince words here. They use a word you almost never hear in science, unequivocally. That is as certain as scientists get. So the debate is over. It's not if humans are causing climate change. The data is crystal clear. We know exactly where this is coming from.
And if you want to see the proof, this chart right here is basically the smoking gun. That bar on the left, that's the warming we've actually measured. The bar right next to it is the amount of warming calculated from all human influence. They're pretty much identical. And that tiny little bar next to it, that's the impact of natural things like the sun and volcanoes. It's almost zero. The evidence doesn't get much clearer than that.
Okay, so if that's the diagnosis, what are the symptoms? Act 2 of this whole story is about how this warming isn't some far-off abstract thing in the future. No, its impacts are already widespread, they're happening fast, and they're getting more intense all around us.
The report lays out these clear, observable changes happening all over the globe. We're talking about more extreme heat waves, not just on land, but in the oceans too. We're seeing more frequent and intense heavy rainfall and flooding in some places, while at the same time, other areas are seeing deeper and longer droughts. On top of that, the proportion of major, powerful hurricanes has likely increased over the last 40 years. Take a look at this map. It really puts just one of those symptoms, extreme heat, into perspective. Every single one of those hexagons is a different region of the world, and the red and pink colors, that means scientists have high or very high confidence that the increase in heat waves there is because of us, because of human-caused climate change. I mean, just look at it. Almost the entire inhabited world is colored in. So if these are the symptoms we're seeing at just over 1 degree of warming, the next obvious question is, what happens as the fever gets higher? And the report is really clear on this. The risks don't just add up, they multiply. So let's compare two possible futures here. At 1.5 degrees of warming, which is the main target of the Paris Agreement, the risks are high. Yeah, but for many, they're potentially manageable. But if we let warming get to 3 degrees, which, by the way, is closer to where current policies might be taking us, the picture gets way, way worse. The extinction risk for species could jump tenfold. We go from challenging to facing widespread, irreversible impacts. Every fraction of a degree really, really matters.
And this is what that actually looks like for life on Earth. The map on the left shows you the number of species exposed to dangerous temperatures in a 1.5 degree world. Now look at the map on the right for a 3 degree world. The high-risk areas, the dark purple ones, they just explode. They cover these massive parts of the planet, especially in the tropics, where most of the world's biodiversity lives.
And listen, this isn't just about plants and animals. This is about us, about the risk to human life. These maps show the number of days each year where the combination of heat and humidity becomes literally deadly. Compare the 1.5 degree world on the left to the 3 degree world on the right. Those dark purple areas, we're talking over 100 deadly days per year. They just take over the map in the tropics, threatening billions of people.
Okay, so we've got the diagnosis, and we've seen the symptoms and how they're getting worse. That brings us to Act 3, the prescription. What do we do? And the science is absolutely clear that our window to secure a livable, sustainable future for everyone is rapidly, and I mean rapidly, closing.
So to understand the prescription, first you have to get this concept of the remaining carbon budget.
The easiest way to think about it is like a very strict financial budget for our planet's CO2 emissions. To have a decent shot at staying below 1.5 degrees of warming, there's a finite, limited amount we can still put into the air. And once we've spent that budget, that's it. We lock in that temperature rise, or even worse.
This graph shows you exactly why that budget is a thing. The relationship here is super simple and direct. The more CO2 we pump into the atmosphere over time, the hotter the planet gets. It's an almost perfect one-to-one relationship. And what that means is every single ton of CO2 matters. Every emission we produce spends a little piece of that remaining budget.
So this diagram really lays out the choice that's right in front of us. You can see two diverging paths. That lower road leads to what's called climate-resilient development. It's built on low emissions, smart adaptation. The upper road? That leads to a high-emission world where we just hit our limits, face worse and worse risks, and start losing our options. The choices we make this decade are going to determine which path humanity takes.
So the situation is urgent. It is absolutely urgent. But, and this is a really big but, the report stresses that this is not a hopeless situation. The final part of the doctor's prescription is all about the pathways and the tools we have, right here, right now, to get us on that safer, more resilient path.
And this, honestly, might be the most important takeaway from the entire report. The scientists are very, very clear. We have the solutions. They've identified a whole range of options that are feasible, that are effective, and in many cases are actually surprisingly low cost. We do not have to wait for some magical new technology to save us.
This chart tells such a powerful story about our options. The length of each bar shows you how much it can cut emissions, and the colors tell you the cost. Now just look at the top two bars, solar and wind power. They give us the biggest bang for our buck. They have the largest potential to slash emissions, and that blue coloring means they're also among the very cheapest options we have. It's a no-brainer.
So the overall strategy has two parts, and they absolutely have to work together. The first is mitigation. That's all about cutting emissions at the source. It's how we stop the problem from getting any worse. The second part is adaptation. That's about preparing our communities for the impacts that we can no longer avoid. We have to do both, and we have to do them now.
And, here's a final critical point the report makes. Taking climate action isn't just about dodging a bullet. It's also about building a much better world. These actions have what they call powerful co-benefits. When you shift to clean energy, you get cleaner air and fewer people get sick. When you build sustainable cities, you get more green space and a better quality of life. The solutions for the climate are also solutions for our health, for equity, and for our prosperity.
So, at the end of the day, that's the essence of the IPCC's report. The state of our climate is, well, it's perilous. The diagnosis is clear, the symptoms are getting worse, but a viable prescription exists. The science is settled, the tools are in our hands, and the final question it leaves us with isn't a question of can we do this, but a question of will we?